Greetings and Merry Christmas. I am the Reverend Davy Fosburgh. I have the honor of serving as the Associate Conference Minister here in the Southeast Conference. I have an oval face with short, mostly gray hair. I am wearing wire-rimmed oval glasses, a green polo shirt with a red sweater over the top. I am sitting in front of a white wall with a charcoal drawing of some swans swimming in a lake behind me. In the Gospel of Luke, we hear the story of Jesus' birth. And I know it's a familiar story for a lot of us. We've heard it read in candlelit sanctuaries many times, or seen it played out by the children in our lives. It is the stories of a birth, the birth of a babe who was foretold by the prophets of old, the birth of a babe who would be King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, a child who would be the Messiah, a child who was and is God with us. But our God is a God who knows no borders, a love who knows no borders. And so from his very birth, the Christ child crosses borders and disrupts expectations. Instead of being born in the palace or a royal court or to leaders of the religious community, the Christ child is instead born to humble parents in a stable of all places because there was nowhere else for them to stay. His first bed was a place for animals to eat. And he is born into an occupied land where his people are under the command of the Roman Empire, one of the largest and longest lasting empires the world has ever known. And yes, angels foretell of this Christ child's birth, but they don't go to the rulers, but go instead to a field full of shepherds who are watching their sheep throughout the night. The angels go to some of the lowest in the social structure of the day. And yes, this story is so familiar. It's so familiar that it is easy for us to lose sight of the radical part. That God's radical inbreaking crashes through the borders that we create. That God's radical love settles and makes its home with the lowest and most vulnerable. The poor, the unhoused, the prisoner, the migrant, the immigrant, the trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming community. Those for whom society does not see or scorns, or for who society actively tries to harm. This year, 28 states have passed anti-trans legislation, including all 5 states that are part of the Southeast Conference. These laws are trying to restrict trans lives at best, and at worst are trying to erase trans and non-binary lives and communities. These bills cover a range of affecting the everyday lives of the trans and non-binary community. From education to healthcare access to forms of ID to employment, these bills are removing access to life-saving medical care simply because an individual is incarcerated or because they rely on Medicare or Medicaid. These bills are putting people's lives in danger because they cannot access an identification documents that correctly identify them. These bills are targeting a community that has already lost over 60 people in the United States this year alone to violence, and over 300 people worldwide. And that number is probably vastly undercounted because not everybody in their death are recognized as being part of the community. Often under the guise of protecting children, these bills are removing access for health care for children who are struggling with gender dysphoria. A bill in Congress right now would criminalize both the medical care providers and the parents trying to help their trans and non-binary children. And medical studies have shown that access to health care for trans and non-binary children saves lives and helps prevent suicide. Yet we know the human experience is more diverse than the binary. And we know that God's love is more diverse. For God's love knows no borders, including the borders that we build around gender. Just as in the days of the Christ child's birth, where God defied expectations and ignored borders, and came to be with the people in the margins, the people the rulers either tried to ignore or actively tried to harm. Christ still breaks into the world to the people who are on the margins, the outcasts, the poor, the immigrants, the prisoners, the trans and non-binary individuals. That is where God is, and that is where we are called to be. So on this Christmas day, I want to invite you to reflect on which borders you are being invited to cross. Which borders are you being invited to actively ignore? Where are you being called to witness to the love which knows no borders? The love that came down to walk among us and live in our midst, who came down to be with us in the body of a small brown-skinned Palestinian baby born to poor parents in a lowly stable. That is our radical love of God. How are you going to share this radical love with the world? Amen.